Welcome to Kit Catastrophe. My name is Kit, and today we'll be taking a look at Transformers Cybertron Deluxe Class CROSSWISE. This figure came out in 2005 as part of Wave 4 of the Deluxe assortment. Sleek, sexy, stylish. Meet the all-new Bugatti EB 16.4 Veyron, complete with a 7-speed transmission, all-wheel drive, and nearly 1,200 horsepower. This might just be the fastest car you'll never drive. In all seriousness, CROSSWISE's alternate mode is very similar to, but not exactly like, a Bugatti Veyron, which means that Hasbro paid a grand total of $0 in licensing fees. To be fair, it would have been pretty damn weird to see a licensed vehicle mode in the middle of a ton of fantasy vehicles and beasts, wouldn't you agree? CROSSWISE bucks the trend of Veyrons having two separate colors, much like how in Age of Extinction Drift was both blue and black, instead donning a solid black livery. There is some silver and bronze detailing to break up the sea of black, especially on the headlights, grille, and top light, and he has some painted red taillights. The sculpt work is on par with most other Cybertron figures, which is to say that it's too detailed to be minimalistic and too sparse to be greebly. It's a nice balance, I'd say. I love how low to the ground it sits and how round and loafy it is. This car mode makes me feel like I should be tearing it apart and spreading some butter on it. CROSSWISE's only accessory is an optional spoiler piece which pegs into the flat recess at the rear of the car. It's covered in silver paint along with some minor bronze and red accents, and also has a flame shooting out the back which doubles as a firing missile. Sticking CROSSWISE's included Earth Cyberplanet key into the slot between his taillights causes two missile pods to flip out over his roof. The dimensions of these pieces are really smart considering that they can be deployed with or without the spoiler attached. The 8 missiles look fierce as fuck, and are also picked out in bronze. You know, I'd say this color scheme is almost as opulent as the real-world cards based on, wouldn't you agree? While CROSSWISE's vehicle mode has a lot of locking tabs to remain solid, the transformation involves unlocking pretty much every single one of them and nothing. Outside of the chest plate formed from the hood of the car, nothing locks in place in robot mode. All of the car mode kibble just hangs around on ball joints at various points on his body, and I guess it's just fortunate that every single one of them has remained tight on my copy. Speaking of tight joints, the toe and heel panels are on diabolically tight hinges, so I'd suggest using a pair of tweezers to crowbar them out if you don't like the idea of breaking a fingernail. I'm not sure if it's just because I've seen the Cybertron anime over and over again, but CROSSWISE really does look like a monster hunter. His proportions are stocky but strong, especially with those really broad shoulders. The windshield from vehicle mode turns into a massive arm-mounted shield, and the door panels could also be considered shields of some kind. His head sculpt looks like an honest-to-God helmet with a protective visor and what looks to be lights at the top. He looks like he should be wielding a massive sword, preferably made from one of those massive spires sitting on his back. This is some pretty egregious back kibble, and I do have an issue with these, but not for the reason you'd think. I don't care that they're not integrated more into the actual robot mode, since they look really cool and give CROSSWISE a far more memorable silhouette. It's just that they don't lock in anywhere. Sure, they'll stay in place because the joints are tight enough, but it feels more like an afterthought than a true design choice. Sadly, CROSSWISE doesn't come with a fuck-huge Monster Hunter melee weapon, just the spoiler gun, which he can use to greater effect. The Cyber Key gimmick is also usable in this mode, where the rocket pods end up slung over CROSSWISE's shoulders, although to make the most use of this, you'll have to straighten those back spires. Now, as you could see through the transformation, CROSSWISE is just full of ball joints. Shockingly, his head is not one of them. It's just a simple swivel joint that rotates 360 degrees, and it's attached to a hinge joint that allows him to look up. That's mostly for transformation, but that's a good enough joint as it is because it allows him to look up for dramatic poses or what have you. The shoulders, however, are ball joints. They go forward and backward, they go outwards all the way, and these doors are on ball joints that can rotate and get out of the way as you need them to. The elbows are ball joints that rotate, and they have a 90-degree bend, which is pretty good. On both arms, the shield doesn't exactly impede any movement in the arms. That's actually pretty good. So these elbows double as bicep rotations. They do a lot, really. They're really versatile. There's nothing at the waist because the waist just locks in place there. But the hips are on ball joints that can go forward and they can go backward until they hit the cyber key apparatus. They can go all the way outwards, and the knees are also on ball joints so that they can, approximate thigh swivels and what have you for more dynamic posing. They also have a 90-degree bend, which is pretty adequate. The toe can bend for walking poses or landing poses, and it can also point for floating poses or whatever. The heel can also do the same thing to just help with stability and what have you. So CROSSWISE is a very, very, very posable lad. Very posable for Cybertron in general. He's really flexible. More flexible than pretty much anyone else in the line, and that's pretty great. Despite my issues with the kibble being at the mercy of how badly the joints they're on have degraded, I still think CROSSWISE might be one of the best deluxe class figures in the entire Cybertron line, second only to Sideways. He has such a memorable character design, a fun and challenging transformation for the time, and his gimmicks and accessories aren't intrusive in the slightest. Without hesitation, I wholeheartedly recommend this figure. I dare say that Cybertron CROSSWISE deserves the highest possible marks I can give. Cybertron CROSSWISE is galactic. If you liked this video or otherwise found it helpful or informative, then please subscribe for more reviews like this in the future, and feel free to suggest topics for future reviews. Once again, it's back to Siege. Okay, I promise I'll be done with this line soon, guys. This has been Katastrophe. Transform and roll out.